For the item pickup, let's go ahead and go. Be sure again, you're on tutorial 11. You should have a coin inside the scene. If you click on the coin, in the inspector, we're going to see the item pickup script file right here. We've got two for this one. We have the coin rotate and we have the item pickup. Go ahead and double click on the item pickup. What this should do is open up the item pickup script. It's just going to be an empty script file with the update function in it. We'll go ahead and start from scratch here. And starting with this one, what we want to do, we'll go ahead and we'll define the top part in a little bit. Actually, let's go ahead and at least give it the title here. We'll say item pickup component. Alright, and let's go ahead and start off by defining an enumeration. What we had on our pickup design, we had the grow, extra life, key, coin, fireball, and game time. So let's go ahead and actually provide the enumeration with those. So let's make an enumeration. Let's just call it pickup type. Alright, and again we'll do it similar to like we did the last one, which was just doing doing the code down this way instead of just going across this way. Alright, so let's say we'll do one that's going to be called grow. And we're going to go ahead and place in, we'll place in a key again, just so that in case you are wanting to, you can make some keys inside the game that the player can collect and use. We'll use a coin, and we'll do a fireball. And the numbers next to them, these aren't required. This is just simply that if you're wanting to define it and make sure that a number, a name is associated with a specific number, then you can certainly define it this way. Otherwise, whatever one you do first will automatically be given 0 value, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and following. Alright, so we've got fireball, we'll do extra life. And last one we'll do is game time. Okay. So we have our enumeration. We had a couple other ones here. We're going to do a, let's see, through here we've got our pickup type, the pickup value, particle, and sound effect. Alright, so let's go ahead and place those in here. And for this one, we'll just make a variable. Again, we'll just call this one pickup type. And this is going to equal, let's move this over a little bit further, just for longer words in the future. We'll do a, let's see, our enumeration is called pickup type with caps, so we'll say pickup type and dot grow. So we'll set it to this to start with. Oops. And let's do another variable type. Again, this one was the pickup value. And we'll go ahead and set its type to an integer, and we'll equal it to 1. Alright, and let's go ahead and make a couple of game objects transforms. We'll just go ahead and take a item, we'll call this one item particle. That'll work. And the item particle, the type is just going to be the transform, because we just want the transform from it when we create instantiation for it. Then we want to do the sound type. So again, we'll do the sound item pickup, and this will be our audio clip. We'll do another one. Now we're going to place in. We've done this one before. We're going to do the sound delay, the sound rate. Those will be the ones for our function for the sound. And we'll do a float for this. And we'll do the sound rate. Again, float on this one, equal to 0. Start it off at null. Alright. Let's kind of straighten these up. We could probably take these out to here. Okay. So, with this gives us our basic ones on the sound. Let's double check what else we have here. So we're going to need to access our player objects. So we're going to have to create a game object type for this and for the HUD. So let's go ahead and make a, for these, let's go ahead and just make these private, because we're not going to need to call them up anywhere else. So we'll just say private variable player game object, and this is going to be a game object. Again, private variable, this will be our HUD, so we'll say HUD game object. And again, this will be the game object type for it. Alright, and let's do one extra one. We'll go ahead and place this one in here. If we have a extra life enabled, that way if we want to be able to give the extra life based off of the coins, then we can enable it. I believe we'll use it for that. So we'll say extra life enabled. And this will just be a boolean, and it'll be for currently set to just a false. So whenever we get to the point where we use it, we'll just set it to equal to true. Alright, let's go ahead and push these out to here. And we'll move these in one. Okay. So we've got our variable types that we're going to be using. We could go ahead and define these before we get going too far. Let's go ahead and just do some commenting here. It's pretty easy just to start running through and going, like, just doing a lot of code. And when you get to that point, sometimes when you get a lot of code, you may be 100, 200 lines of code, and then you look back up, and commenting becomes more like of work and something you don't want to do. So if you can kind of stop along the way and just go ahead and comment, it'll make it a little bit easier on you in the long run. So, enumeration pickup type. This will be just our list of pickup items. We'll say grows Mario. Key for objects. We'll just say undefined since we're just putting it in as a stand-in here. Coins for HUD use. And let's see, this one, if he has a fireball, this will make I'm going to say changes Mario to Fireball Mario. And adds an extra life to HUD. And for this one, we'll just say it increases the amount of time in the game. Alright. Okay, so our pickup type, this one, this is going to set the starting value for the pickup type displayed in the inspector and for on start. So we'll just have it set starting value for pickup type. Alright. And for this one, pickup value, this will just set the value for each pickup type selected. And item particle, so what is this? This is going to be particle displayed after pickup, after, we'll say after item picked up. Okay. Sound file played after pickup. And actually we've got a sound item pickup. Yeah, that'd be right. Okay. And for the other ones, we could just put, this will be the same as before. We'll just say it's the amount of time to delay before actually playing the sound again. So if we have a repetitious sound that we need, then we can certainly use that. Alright, so the sound rate, this will just be the variable that holds the current time plus the delay amount. So we'll just say variable holds current time plus the delay amount. Alright. And let's see. The player game object, remember this is going to be, we're basically trying to get we're going to get the player, the object name with a tag player on it. So we'll just say we'll just comment and say get game object with player tag. And the other one is going to be get game object with HUD tag. Alright. And then the last part right here, we're just getting we'll just set a toggle for extra life. Alright. So that gets us set up with the commenting on here as well. For the next part, let's go ahead and start off with our functions. We're going to be using a start function. Oops. And we'll be using an onTrigger event function. So we'll use function, and we'll just do the onTrigger enter. I'll go ahead and just define the other collision. So other collider. And along with that, remember from our other one, we'll do the apply pickup as well. So let's go back in here. The other function we'll define then. We'll just say function, and we'll just call it the same that we had it in there. We'll just say apply pickup. And we wanted from it, we're going to want, let's see, player status. So we're going to want the player properties. So let's go ahead and just define that inside of here. We'll say player status is the word that we'll use to hold it, and the type is going to be the player, player properties. There we go. And then last one that we were using before, which was our play sound. Okay, and what it held last time for the arguments inside, it was the sound name and the sound delay. Alright. There we go. So now we've got all of our functions ready to have stuff inside it. And then that last part, I think we were going to go ahead and just, let me double check here. Yeah, so we're going to do the add component menu as well. So let's go ahead and add that to our item pickup here. So just at the bottom, just like we did before, if you remember the @ symbol, and we'll just say script add component menu. So it's going to be adding to our component on the menu bar right here. And what we want to add is going to be, we'll say WalkerBoy / interactive / pickup script. And there we go. I'll go ahead and say it's going to be assigning this script to the menu. Alright. So again, if we're inside of here, if we go up to components, WalkerBoys, once it brings it up, let's make sure it's actually going to bring it up here. Oh, may have to refresh before it gets to that point. Alright. So we'll get a second to refresh. On the on this part inside of the start, we want to go ahead and initialize our couple of our variables. Let's go ahead and pull this off the side, initialize. So what do we need to initialize? When we're actually working with this, the game objects that we have here, our player, game object, and HUD, we go ahead and initialize them early inside the start on this. So let's go ahead and just do that. We'll say player game object, and it's going to actually equal the game object dot find with tag. So we'll say find with tag. If you notice, this is going to return one active game object. So again, we're only looking for one, so that's fine. Alright, so we'll say game object with tag, and we want to find player. And just be sure that, like for this one, the player is capitalized on here. Let's double check. Yeah, player capital on that one. Alright, and then we also want to find the HUD game object. So let's find our game object, find with tag. And this one will be HUD. Alright, so we'll go ahead and set those two so that we can use them. And so again, coming up with this is really like the bigger picture. Coming up with this initially, there's a lot of writing it down, like writing this down, yes, but then coming up with even more of the idea. You may get to the point where like you write this down, but then you start going through a lot of iterations and trying to figure out how exactly it works, looking up all the definitions, trying to make sure you have all the things figured out. Most of this is going to come after several times of revisions for it. So what we have on this part, we're just kind of going through more of the finished form of it. On the onTrigger enter, let's go ahead and check for what we want to do. So at this point, what are we trying to check for? This is going to be assigned to the game object right here. Okay, so what we need to actually see is we're going to be looking for when the player actually comes across over here. So when the player comes across, then we can actually say, hey, there's been an event, there's been a trigger entering, and we can check to see whether or not it's something that we can do something with. Alright, so on this, we will go ahead and just say that if, and we'll just do a quick check on the tag. So let's just say if other.tag name is going to equal, let's say collision box body. I believe that's what's. Let's double check on player's name. There we go. So collision box body. That's going to be the one that's going to be checking for the collision here. Alright, so if that actually is collided with, let's do something about it. What we could start off with, just a simple print. Let's find out if it is. So we'll say player collided. Alright. So let's go over here, make sure we have this. And remember, for the script, it's going to be looking for, initially, we'll be looking for our, let's see, private variables, we'll be looking for these two. So as long as these are actually true in terms of an object inside the scene tagged with that, and then the collision box body is with it, then it'll actually find it. So we'll play this, and when our player comes over to it, notice our player collided. That lets us know that we actually got into this area. Okay. So instead of just printing with this, let's go ahead and set up a couple of. Let's go ahead and grab our player properties so that we can actually use it. And the other part, let's see, actually before we start setting up stuff, let's go ahead and fill out our apply pickup, because this is really what we're going to be using inside the trigger. So let's jump down here. Inside your apply pickup function, let's go ahead and set this one up. Inside of here, let's go ahead and make a variable. We're just going to call this one our HUD connect. So there's a couple of things that we want to do when we're actually applying the pickup. We want to go ahead and get the HUD controller. That way we can actually use it inside the script. And then we're just going to do a switch statement and just have some cases checking for the pickup type. And then each one of the types will define what they're going to do and how they're going to affect the HUD, how they're going to affect the player. Alright, so the first part, let's go ahead and just say that the HUD connect is going to equal our HUD game object. So when it finds a HUD game object from the tag, we'll just say get component. And the component that we actually want to get is going to be the HUD controller. So we'll just grab our HUD controller. Remember, this is just the script file HUD controller right there. Alright. So once we have our HUD controller, let's go ahead and go down one here. Let me bring that up so it's about centering the screen for you. Alright. So the let's jump back down to apply pickup. Okay. So we have our HUD connect, which is going to get us set up for that one. Let's go ahead and jump to our switch statement. So we're going to use the pickup type that we had before. So in our pickup type, we're going to define different cases. Now remember, our case that we're going to use is going to be the grow, key, coin, fireball, extra life, and game time. So we want to use those as our cases here. So first one, let's go ahead and just say that if the pickup type is going to equal, say, case pickup type dot grow, and we'll go ahead and just do each one and then set some code into them after that. Alright, so we'll do break on this one. We'll do another case. This case would be pickup type. Alright, so this pickup type, let's go ahead and just do key on it. And we'll break out of that one. And this pickup type will actually just take as coin. And break that one. And this pickup type will be fireball. Let's double check. Coin, fireball, extra life. Okay. So fireball. And extra life. And last one with the game time. Alright, so this gives us each one of our types for the pickup types. That way, over inside of here, on the pickup type right there, when I click on it, I'll have all my options, and whenever I choose one, so say I chose coin, inside of the switch, it would just go to pickup type is currently coin, and go down to the case that's the pickup type coin, and then whatever we want to have inside of coin would actually work. So, for instance, with this one, we'd wind up adding a coin value to our HUD so that the coin over here, we would want to be able to add to it so that the coin on the HUD controller script would add 1 to this one when we touch this. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off. We'll go ahead and create the, since we're actually we've got this one so we could create with it, but we're basically gonna set up the whole system, and then we'll look at each one individually. Alright, so let's go ahead and start working from the first one on the switch statement, the pickup type and grow. Alright, so this one, let's go ahead and make an if statement on here. We want to check to see, make sure that the player is actually going, not going to be going from a large state to a small state, or from a fire state to the large state. If he's already a fire Mario, then we just want to keep him at that. So let's go ahead and say that if player status, because we're going to be pulling from our player status here. So if player status and player state, alright, is not equal to player state dot Mario Fire. Alright, so if he's not those, then let's go ahead and grow him. Then that means that we can say that player status dot player state is going to be equal to player state dot Mario large. Alright, so this is going to, and we'll just make a comment here, this is going to change to a large state if Mario is small. Alright. And in order to change from there, remember that part of what we did before was that we had it so that we actually had to set the change Mario to true. That way it would allow it to actually change. And remember, this is part of, if you don't remember it at the moment, like if you've kind of forgotten it or it's been a day or two, remember, just go to your player properties right here. We need to make sure we have our change Mario to true, so that we actually, when it gets to here, it will allow him to change to the next state. Alright, so we'll go ahead and place in that. Alright, so player status dot change Mario is going to equal true. Alright, and that will enable the change player. There we go. So that gives us our change player for the Mario. Then we're going to just break out of it once we're done with the grow. And let's go ahead and go down to the key. On the key option, let's go ahead and just add a simple one for the key just so you have it. But again, we're not actually using this for the game that we're working on right now. We'll just say it's going to be the player status dot add keys. And remember, the add keys from our player player properties, we had the key right here, so we're just calling up the function we had. And the argument for this one was just a pickup. We're just going to use the pickup value. That way when you go across a key, our pickup value can actually be the number. So you could either have it where you have to collect a certain number, or numbers, if you collect a number, it could represent the same number for a door. So if you collect number 1, then you have to find door number 1. So this one, pickup value. Alright, so you have add keys pickup value on here, and then we'll just go ahead and break out of there. Next one after that one, we have the pickup type coin. This is going to be, again, player status, and we'll call up our function we had from the player properties. This is the add coin. Remember the argument inside of it. Again, we're just getting a value, and the value is going to be what we assigned from here. So we'll say pickup value. So you can see already this really becomes more of a benefit, is that it's the same one, but just being able to call it up in the same time and then having it assigned to different ones really works well for us. So we have the player status add coin, and then we have our HUD connect dot coin. Alright, so the HUD connect, the dot coin, if you recall, inside of our HUD connect script is actually controlling each one of these. So if we're adding one coin to it, so for instance, we're going to actually take the current HUD coin, and we're just going to plus equals. That way it's basically saying HUD coin is going to equal itself plus the pickup value. So we'll say plus equals pickup value. Alright, so now that means that we now have whatever our value was for coin. So if it was 1, it's just going to add 1 to the current HUD coin, which means this would just increment one time through. Alright. And let's go ahead and jump down to the fireball. And for fireball, again, we're going to have to change the player's state to Mario Fire. So let's just take our player status dot player state, and it's going to equal player state dot Mario Fire. Alright, so that's going to actually set it up so that his current state changes to Mario Fire. We need to make sure that he has the fire. Remember, over here in the player properties, what we did before, this has to be true, has fire. And then we also have to make sure that we have the change Mario set to true as well. And then he'll be able to change to that player state. Alright, so we'll say player status. Player status dot has fire is going to equal true. And then same thing again, we'll say player status dot change Mario is going to equal true as well. So both of those will allow us to enable the Mario Fire for it. Alright, next one we have is the extra life, and we'll go ahead and just set this up as the extra life enabled. Oops. So we'll say extra life enabled is going to equal true. Alright, and these last two, we're not going to completely define these. We'll focus on this on the first set. And the other one, game time, let's go ahead and just, I'm going to do this one just as a comment to come back to later. We'll say player status dot add time, and we'll have it set up as the pickup value as well. Alright. So we've got a lot of new code placed into here. Let's take a moment and do some commenting on it. Gonna pull this out a little bit here. Jumping back up to the top right here. This one. So for these, let's see. This is actually, let's go ahead and use this as the defining point for each of these. This is really what it would be defining, is it's actually getting it. Alright, and those, that's actually just the setup for it. So, we'll say it's just going to be, this is player game object. We'll do just assign through the inspector. Okay. And, actually we really don't want to assign it through the inspector though, because it's private, so we'll just say that it's going to be, get the, actually variable, so store, there we go. Okay, store player game object, and we'll just say player. This is going to store the HUD game object. HUD. Okay. We haven't placed anything inside of here yet, but when it comes to this will just be check for trigger enter from collision. We'll go ahead and label this one as well. We're just saying that if tag is equal to collision from player. Alright, on the function for the apply pickup, let's just say this is the apply the pickup type to the player. Okay. For here, we're actually just getting the HUD controller JavaScript file and pickup. Alright. Let's go ahead and check for what the pickup type is and respond accordingly. Okay, let's move this back over. Alright, so first case. And the cases, we're just going to say that we'll say Mario grows. And the next part, this one, we're just trying to say that we're going to make sure we keep the player from going back to the large state. So check and prevent or keep player from going back to the large state. Alright. Have those, and then we'll break. And we have the next one, which is our key type. And for the key type, let's see, this one is just simply Mario gets a key. And for the key type for it, we'll just say that it adds add a key. Let's put this alright, and same thing for here. Mario gets a coin. And we want to add a coin to the current coin count. And this one is going to add to the HUD. So we'll say add a coin to the HUD amount. Alright. Next one, fireball. This is just going to say that Mario gets a fireball. Alright, and if he gets a fireball, then we can change to a Mario fire state. And we'll say fire ability is going to be equal to true. And then finally, let's make sure we say enable Mario change. Alright, so notice again, this is kind of a slower process here because we're just taking our time going through and making sure everything is nice and clean. Again, you can easily just wait until closer towards the end of your project as well. You don't have to do it you don't have to do it during, but it usually makes it easier just because you have less to do at the very end. Alright, so pickup type. For this one, this is just going to be the extra life, so we'll say Mario gets an extra life. And if Mario gets the extra life, we'll just say enable extra life. Oops. Alright, Mario gets extra time. And let's say game time just to be specific. Add extra time to game time. Alright. So we've got our commenting pretty much done. Let's go ahead and place in the sound function. We've already written the sound function before, so you could either just copy it from a previous file, or you could just rewrite it here. And for what we wanted inside of it, if you remember, was just we're checking to see if the audio is no longer playing. Oops. And if the time, because remember our delay part on here, if the time is greater than the sound rate. Alright. So if that's true, then we want to make the sound rate equal to our current time. And we want to make the this part of it add to our sound delay. Alright. So the next part is just going to be this loading up our sound clip. We want to make the sound clip equal to our sound name. Remember, our sound name is just from the function call here, and that would be what we load from up here on the audio, which was the sound item pickup. Alright, so we'll have the sound name, and we'll do our audio play at this point. Alright, so that'll give us our play sound, which this should give us everything we need now to actually work over the onTriggerEnter. So we now have our apply pickup. We've got our argument to grab our player properties, which we'll be calling player status throughout this area. And then inside of here we have our play sound to be able to play the sound clip when the character goes over the object. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump inside of the onTriggerEnter. For this first part, we were checking for the tag, so that if the player walked across, and we checked when the player did walk across, it caused the tag just to print out that it collided with it. So what we want to do inside of here, though, is we actually want to get our player properties, and then we want to apply our pickup function, the apply pickup function we created down here. And then we'll need to actually kind of turn, like for instance with this, once we actually create it, when the player walks over it, the basic idea behind the trigger side for the object is that we turn the rendering state off, and then we can add a particle effect, we can add a sound effect to it, and then once the sound effect's done playing through, then we can actually add a value and then get rid of the object itself, so we just destroy it. Alright, so that's basically the steps that we'll take here. So inside of the collision box body, so if this is true, then let's add a variable, and we'll just do the player prop, which is player properties that we're going to be assigning. So we'll say variable player property is going to equal player game object, and we're going to get our component from it. And the component that we're looking for is the script file, player properties. And often if you're working on things like this, if you don't remember the scripts very well, be sure that you actually just load them up into here. That way you can click on it, you can double check what they're called, make sure you get everything just right. Alright, so if we get this one, let's go ahead and once we have it, then we can actually use the player properties, this one, we can actually stick that inside of the argument here for the function. So we'll say apply pickup. And then inside, we can actually just do the pprop. This will give us our access and control that we need for it. Alright. So at that point, let's go ahead and turn off our rendering state. So again, if you remember how to do the rendering for it, you're just going to do the render.enable is going to equal to enabled equals false. This is one of the things that once you start doing enough times, you'll just be able to start calling these out pretty easy. So we're going to turn off our rendering. That way, once we grab it, it's going to look like it disappears. And then we want to go ahead and add a particle effect to make it look that just to give the impression that the player did actually connect with it and something happens. So a little bit of feedback there. So we'll say if, and we're just going to say if item particle. Alright, so if we have the item particle, then, and this is just a check that we can do for it. So if there's an item particle, let's do an instantiation with it. So we'll instantiate, and what we want to use is the item particle here. So item particle, and we want to go ahead and go for the transform of the objects. We could say this transform, or we could just do transform position. So either way, it will just say transform.position and transform.rotation. Alright. And, oops. There we go. So that'll create the instantiation for us. So when we touch this object, it'll instantiate and create whatever item particle that we have for it, assigned from the inspector over here. Alright, so we could go ahead and try this one, since we have this set up right here. Let's say, for instance, here, we'll go ahead and just go into here. Looks like we'll make sure we have everything set up on this part. Hadfire is not a member of. Let's see if make sure we got the right one here. It's Hasfire, not Hadfire. Alright, so here, let's do HAS, Hasfire. Alright. So once it goes away, this one, if we take click on the coin, since it already has the item pickup script assigned to it, let's go ahead and add an item particle. We'll go ahead and drop in a sound one as well. If this is the coin pickup, then inside of our prefabs, we should have a coin particle effect here. So prefab and item. Let's see if we have it here. Pickup. There we go. So the prefab coin pickup particle. Let's just drag this one over to the item particle right here. And then for the sound, let's double check our audio. And Mario coin. Alright, so when we go across the object now, what we should get when we cross it is that little particle effect right there. And then once we assign the sound file to it, then the sound will play as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump back into here. And right below here, let's go ahead and do another check to be sure that we actually have a sound file. So we'll say if and sound item pickup. And if we have the sound item pickup, then let's go ahead and just play sound. Make sure we do the caps on that. Go. So play sound, and we're looking for the sound item pickup. And we want 0 for delay. We just want it to play regular. Okay. So this will allow us to actually play the sound. And then once we play the sound, let's just double check. If I remember right, part of it didn't play through completely correct, so we want to make sure to do one more check here. We're going to do a wait, a yield, wait for seconds. And this part we'll just do clip.length, just to make sure that it actually plays through the full length of the sound clip. And after it does, then we can go ahead and just add in two things. We could, if this was actually for, say for instance, we were checking for the extra life, and if it was true, so for instance, like the one extra life item, we'll go ahead and add that one to it here. We'll say if, because that way we can do the mushroom with the extra life. If extra life enabled, alright, let's go ahead and just do this one. So if extra life is enabled, then the player properties, remember it has lives, so the lives on this one, with this one right here, we want to be able to add to that one. So if you remember from the player properties, this was going to be lives right there, so we'll just add to it the pickup value. Alright, so that gives us our lives, just in case we have that. And then let's set the extra life back to false. So extra life enabled is now equal to false. That way it just does it one time through. Alright, and last thing, once we've added it to it, the last thing we can do is destroy the game object. And that's going to clean everything up and make sure there's nothing left behind once we actually select it, because at the moment when we do the rendering it is false, the object's still going to be inside, like when the game's playing you'll see it inside your hierarchy as it goes through, but when you see, when you do the destroy, it'll actually delete it from the list over here. Alright, so let's see, we have a unknown identifier on audio clip. Let's make sure we have the right labeling for that one. Should just be audio. There we go. Alright, so with that set in, then again if we go back to here, our current pickup type is on coin, so you should notice when you walk across, the coin will actually change to 1. So just as an example here, if I was to actually select the coin and just push Control D, make a couple of copies here. If I had 4 copies, we press play. When he walks across, it'll be 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you can hear it, it's actually making the noise as it goes across each one. Alright, so that's going to be the start for our item pickup. This will give us all the properties we need. Again, when I'm ready to change, if I want to do an extra life, I could go down here and say extra life. The value for it would be 1. When I play this time, we walk across, and it gives me 5 right here for the extra life. Alright. So this will be our basic setup for the item pickup. We'll go ahead and just finish off with some commenting here, and then we'll have it all finished off. Alright, so commenting on these parts. Let's see. This is just going to be getting the player properties. JavaScript file. And then we'll go ahead and just identify this as the function for the pickup state. Okay, and let's go ahead and turn off object render. Check if we have the item particle. Alright, create a copy of the particle. And we'll check if we have the sound item. And then play, or we just say function for playing sound. And wait till audio is finished. And check if the extra life is true. And if it is true, then let's go ahead and add an extra life to current life. And then we'll set the extra life option, set extra life to false. And then finally, delete current game object. Alright, so that finishes off our commenting for the item pickup component, and it gives us all of the properties we need to be able to run most of the pickup items. We're going to have a special case here in a little bit, though. When we get to part of our pickups, we've got one, which is the pickup block, and this one's going to be a little bit different of a case for it, but the rest of them should be able to just use the item pickup that we've made here. Let's double check again, make sure we've got everything that we had set out for here. Reuse, go through here, yeah. So again, while you're working on this, just double check with what you have here. If you have any additional things written down, make sure that you add those to it. That last part, we'll go ahead and just add in the top elements here. So let's see, let's do Walker Boys. And description. We had a description that we were using back here. Let's go ahead and just use this one. We'll just copy that one. And then one additional one, and this is something you can also add to it when you start working through it, is the, let's spell it right here, is the instructions. You can actually have a little instruction area so that people know how to actually assign things to it. So we can say this is assign type, particle and sound for, 4 or 2, each pickup type. Alright, so this gives us all of our properties here. And again, we'll just go through, let's just let this go through from here. I'll show you the other screen here. And one more down. Alright, so that is basically our item pickup. So if you have another 20 items that you're trying to add to the current type that we have right here, this is where you would want to add it into. So you would just want to go in here and you just add a new item. Remember though, we are calling this up in 3 different spots. So we have the item pickup being defined inside of here. We also have the item pickup being checked on the player and up on the HUD. And at this point, this is giving us access to all the spots and being able to use all of them based on these 2 right here. Alright, so after this point, we'll go ahead and get into the next one. Our next set is going to be looking at each one of the pickup types, and we'll make sure that they're all working the way they should work.